Let's move on to talk about another subject that we say we're going to cover, which is the socket API. So instead of doing the socket APIs, we just go and just try it, okay? So the socket APIs, let's do this guy. Let me show. I'm going to use the Python examples, okay? And let me blow up the page. Can you see the code? Okay, good. Okay. So the examples I'm using, and later on, I think that I think you should try it. Okay, but this is just one example that it's easy to try. So I'm just using these examples that to go over it. Okay, so the example I'm using is using the echoing. Okay, so let's just run it first. I'm going to run. This is my echo server. So echo server comes out. It says start waiting for receive the messages, and the echo client is this guy. So the echo client is in the say type something to O end. Okay, so I'm going to type and just type A B C D E F G, and after I send it out on the client side, and it's sending A B C D E F G and waiting to receive something. Okay, and the server side is when he was previously he is waiting. He start up the server on localhost port 10,000. So localhost is really the current machines I'm using. And the port is open up at 10,000. And so he waits for receiver messages, and he receives 7 bytes from 127.0.0.1, which is the localhost. Okay, and the port 59248. So this is the client's port. And the data is the ABCDEFG. And he sent 7 bytes back to that guy. Okay, and also 7 bytes is received by this one is that it become uppercase. So basically on this whole program is really, we just send a string character into the server, and server is sitting in the host port 10,000. Okay, and then he just echo back that uppercase. So if we go to the client side, we do it one more time, do some more junk, okay? And then he will come back to all the uppercases coming back. Okay, so this is really just do it within my own machine. So it doesn't really go out to a network, but it's still using the socket API. It's just really talking to the local machines. That's it. Okay. Now, can I run this over the network? Yes, I can. Can I capture this with the Wireshark? Yes, I can. But if I capture the Wireshark, because we are on Zoom right now, it's going to be a whole bunch of other stuff on the Wireshark. So that's not what I'm going to do, but you should do it. Okay, later on, you should try it. Now, let's look at the program itself. So are we clear about what this is doing? If we are clear, let's look at the program. And all right, good. Thank you, Sabrina. Okay, so I'm going to show you is that on this program, the first is that the server side. Okay, so this is UDP echo server.python. Okay. So the first instruction here is import socket. That means there's a socket library So we imported the use. Basically, it's really just like a use. Okay, use import socket library, then import system because we're using read and write and all that stuff. So the first thing that the server is doing is create UDP socket. Create UDP socket is socket.socket. So this is really just that socket library's interface, and it's almost universal to C++ or other Java. So I know these three type of socket interfaces you use. The first one I know is actually C++. That's where I learned. Okay, well, in fact, it's not C++. It's really C. C programs socket library. So I go from C to C++ and do the socket library, and then the Java library, and now there's the Python library. They're all working almost all identical. Okay, so create UDP socket, you use a socket class, and then create a socket, and the socket is AFINET, is internet socket, and sock DGRM is datagram socket. So it's UDP socket. It's internet addressing and it's a datagram socket. Okay, so it's a UDP socket. So create one, and where is the socket? The socket object is sock here. Then what we do is that we bind, so we create a UDP socket and we bind this server socket into port. Port bind to where? Bind to that port 10,000. Okay, that's why we see in that guy is doing the open. When it first started, it started up on the local host. So once you bind it, okay, you bind it, that means he is sitting there. Okay, so I just print out starting host on that port number. Okay, then, oh, sorry, this is just a server address. The bind is actually right here. Okay, this is a server address. It's just getting these two things together. So it's really just make this into a tuple, and then the tuple just do the print. That's the Python's printing syntax. Okay, the binding is on the line number 10. So this is binding that the machine and the port number into the socket. So socket is sitting there waiting. Waiting what? So this whole routines here from 11 all the way to the end is really an infinity loop. So the UDP, we just server sitting there and keep waiting. And once he got something there, okay, he's waiting, receive message. Then the socket receive from is really just, he receive stuff from the socket. So when he receive that guy, so he is pending here, waiting for the things to receive. It's blocking. Okay, then it up to 4K bytes. Once he receive it, he print it out. See how many bytes he received, and then what's the address is receiving from. Okay, and print the data out. So that's pretty much what I did. Then if we got the data, then we send back the data. Okay, then they print out, says how many bytes is sent back. So virtually that is the code. It's showing up when I first just run it. We're waiting, okay, waiting for that, and then it's binding to the port 10,000, waiting to receive messages, receive 7 bytes from whoever the sender guy is, and that's the data, and then send all the data back. Okay, and the data sent back, we convert it to data.upper, which is that change to uppercase. Okay, and then when this is one cycle is done, you just keep looping it, because of the while true is keep looping it until. So that's why we can do multiple times of the clients coming in. So if you got multiple clients, that should be okay too. Okay. Any questions about the server? Should be pretty straightforward to you now. Okay, so let's look at the client. Okay. No, it makes sense. Sabrina, this is it Spanish? Spanish, no, it makes sense means it doesn't make sense. Are we okay? All right, so I'm just pulling your leg about Spanish, okay? Yeah. Okay, so the client part, okay? The client part, yes, we're still using the socket library. So import socket library and import the system. Again, when you want to do any communications, you create a socket. So create a UDP socket is just like the same as the other guy, okay? And then the addresses is still using the same addresses. Now what we're doing is we're going to connect it to that socket. We're going to send the stuff to the socket, okay? So the client here, again, I put into a while loop. A while loop is a message. This is that getting the, it's a cin, okay? Console, it's output that guy and then waiting for input put into the message. So this is what the Python does, okay? And then if message is END, then we are done. If message is not END, we'll keep going, okay? And then we're sending whatever the message is out, and then this is really the part, really send to. Send to what? Send to whatever the messages we type, okay? Now, there is a little bit thing I struggled before is that is this encode thing. Encode is that the messages we are typing is ASCII code, but that the thing is need to convert it into the Unicode. So this is really convert into the Unicode. So, you know, just if you encounter problems, just Google search a little bit. Other people will have the answer too. Okay, so that's how I fix that one. You send to that guy by encoding it. So basically, I sent whatever the type in Unicode into where? Into the server address. And server address is that the local host. Okay, so if you're going to do the client over the internet to somewhere else, that will be that whatever the server's IP addresses need to be. Okay, now afterwards he is going to wait on the socket. So wait on the socket, and the return is to return the data and where the servers come from. Okay, then pretty much it's just print out whatever the data. So the data get printed out will be that the things coming back. So that's on the client side. We say we type something out. Well, so we do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then he's sending out. You're waiting for receive, and then he got it. And then he just keep looping on it. Okay, so that's the UDP client part. That's the UDP server part. It's pretty simple, straightforward thing. And would you like to try it? I think it's good to try.